Uh, you say you're ready?
I said still nothing from in situ. I mean, no questions from in situ audience.
Okay. So are we situated where I can start again?
Yes, we can start the second round again.
Great. Well, thank all of you for coming over and joining me here. I see 22 people online. That's great. I appreciate that. As I said earlier, my name is Todd Talbert, and I serve as the Chief Administrative Officer of the Internet Society, or ISOC for short. I've also been, for the previous 3 years I was here, I was the Senior Director of Information Technology. So I have a pretty good view overall of how we've been ramping up our ability to do remote participation. For a few minutes, I'd like to share with you the work that ISOC is doing and has done in growing our remote participation for our events, collaborations, and discussions for the Internet, on the Internet. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Internet Society, we are a global organization, primarily based in Geneva, Switzerland, and Reston, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. The Internet Society is committed to an open Internet everywhere for everyone. We work at the intersection of public policy, technical standards, and access around the globe. As you can see from our map here, we cover a large part of the world between our 113 chapters and our 80,000 individual members and supporters. In addition, we have 143 organizational members, which take the form mostly of companies and organizations from all over the world. We support this community with 90 staffers based in 20 countries around the globe and provide regional and local work through our 6 bureaus. With such a diverse staff, community, and mission, our intention in remote participation is to increasingly expand the conversations, the input, and the collaboration past the boundaries of just physical face-to-face meetings. There's no doubt in my mind that face-to-face meetings are important, but the reality of multi-stakeholderism is that the ecosystem can flourish further as we broaden the participation by as many voices as possible. The use of airplanes and conference rooms is not the only way to get this participation. So through our Internet First initiatives, we look to tackle the issues you see on the screen here, which are engage those who, for whatever reason, can't join a physical meeting, extend the collaboration past time zones and geography, and utilize this great global technology in a way that allows conversations from anywhere and anyone who wishes to engage. So to that end, we started with extending our conversations and collaborations in our staff, bringing them together face-to-face online to hear each other's voices, to share and nurture ideas, and to attempt to bring this geographically dispersed team a bit closer and more efficient on a daily basis. If you remember from the first slide, our staff is in 20 countries around the world, and again, there's only 90 of us, so we are quite spread out, as you can imagine. We then moved on to our community forums. We look to engage our community about 20 minutes here, based from here in Reston, Virginia. In these gatherings, we pick topics such as WSIS or collaborative security or access and development and bring in the subject matter experts of our staff and community to educate, discuss, and work together to determine the way forward that benefits the Internet. These have turned into fantastic venues for our community to interact and speak, and while we do a large one every 3 months, as I mentioned, the interaction doesn't stop there at all. We then moved on to, after we succeeded in both of those veins, our next step was to attempt to bring the entire community together for a single event, a single gathering to embrace the collaboration and to tie together the Internet community in a way that we at the Internet Society had never attempted. Intercommunity 2015 was the name of our initiative, and it culminated in our very first hybrid event that included 15 nodes in cities around the world, over 5.5 hours of content and discussion. We had 142 countries represented and over 1,900 people in those nodes, and online individually participating and engaging. We utilized the Internet for a meeting about the Internet. We learned a lot about how to utilize the technology and how to engage people in a way on a level that made that interaction valuable for their time. Many people joined together in conference rooms in places like Thailand and Amsterdam, Nairobi and Auckland, New Zealand, while twice that many joined from their personal computers in their offices or from their homes. They all came to interact, to discuss, share, and learn from and with one another. And I think we had a very good event that, that people will remember. And we're doing another one in September, so please join us if you can. So just quickly talk about our key learnings. And these, for me, are the learnings that will guide us and push us forward in how we do remote participation better. So to me, to answer the question of how we would like to do remote participation well, I think we can take a look at these 4 items as a starting spot and then apply for your own audiences. First of all, one size does not fit all, meaning that we weren't able to come up with one technology solution that would work for every person or every aspect of our remote participation. In our case, we had to create 2 solutions, one for nodes and one for individuals, and then bring them together in the back end. Secondly, we had to design our remote experience into the agenda. We wanted to include those folks who are typing down here in this chat window back here to make sure that they're engaged as well. We didn't want to make them fight to get a word in or feel that they are not an equal member of the conversation. Remember, those who want to collaborate need to have the ability to do so no matter where they're sitting. Thirdly, tech solutions are bound. They're available, they're affordable. But don't overwhelm the participants. A plethora of screens and functions and features and, in a technology solution can get people confused and more focused on how to participate rather than the actual engagement that they came to do. And then lastly, over-communicate to our participants. Yes, there is such a thing as too much information. But we've attempted to err on the side of caution in providing timely and rich information before the events. So reinforcing our messages of the topics, the agenda, the use of technology, and the intent for the collaboration can and did pay dividends for us in the end, and allowed people to be more engaged in the conversation and get the collaboration that you want and that they want. So with that backdrop, I'd love to answer any questions or discuss further what we did or how we can all increase our remote participation on the important topic of internet governance and other topics that your community needs to engage in. So I'll stop there and see if we have any questions. I'm going to scroll back a bit here because I want to make sure that I cover any questions here. None in the chat. Are there any questions in the room there? Maybe we'll start there.
There is no questions
Yes.
from the room. There isn't. Just thanks for the great presentation.
Thank you.
No questions.
Okay. Well, just remind everyone that the Internet Society, if you want to see this in action in September of this year, we'll be doing the 2016 version. We're already in the planning. It's a great event that we put together. I think we're going to do even more so in terms of the remote participation, in that we will probably have more nodes or hubs. We'll have more places that people will be able to come in there. I'm going to look here to see if we have any questions. How do you manage to recognize online participants, making them part of the room? Great question, Ginger asked here in the chat. So one of the things that we're very big on is to make sure that there's an advocate in the room. So if we have a room like what I see here in Geneva, we would have someone like Arvin, who is chiming in every once in a while, to make sure that there's someone who can both ways, be the advocate for the people in the room to the online folks, and vice versa. We make sure that there's someone in the room who can hold up their hand and say, we do have questions from the online community. We also did in inter-community, and will continue to do, we sent our executives and our subject matter experts and our great people out into the nodes and had them do their presentations from there. So we were moving the conversation around the globe as we worked on this. We really enjoyed having the conversation with people around. I'm thinking off the top of my head because it was such a blur, such a long day, but we had great conversations with people in Nairobi, and then we brought in Amsterdam and Geneva, and then moved into the US and had presentations there. We really did take into account that the fact that there were people further than just where we were sitting, where I was sitting in Auckland, New Zealand. Let's see. So Trevor mentions he liked the idea of having presenters situated in the remote nodes. Very much, I would highly recommend that. It really made us move around the globe. It also makes you step up your game if you're in the technical world. It also makes you step up your game to what you're doing in those nodes to make sure that you have more than just, I'm on my laptop here with the camera at the top of the screen, but to have more than that, because you may have more people than just one presenter who wants to speak. You might want to hand a microphone around. You might want to have a camera that moves and points to those people, like what we see there in the Geneva room. So, take into account all of those places, all of the places that you want to have the collaboration. And yeah, as many speakers as you can send out into the world to come back and speak, that's really a good thing to do. Probably about 2 minutes left. Any other questions, comments? I'm not sure if that. Oh, she's asking Trevor if he's monitoring Twitter. I am not monitoring Twitter while we're talking, so I can do pretty good at multitasking, but I can't do that as well. If you meant if we monitor Twitter during the events, absolutely. We also have advocates whose responsibility is just to sit there and monitor the Twitter feeds, because there could be great questions that come in via our hashtag. Our hashtag at that point was ICOM15. It will most likely be ICOM16 this year. So yes, we definitely do that. And I think we can expand that a bit. I think we can do a little bit better, including Facebook and other social media, and have more work on that, Periscope and things like that we could really do before and after sessions with. It is very difficult to keep up with the Twitter sphere while you're trying to do this. So having one or two people, and then in our case, you have multiple languages. So you have people tweeting in Spanish and French and English. So we actually, during ICOM, we had one of each. We had one person of our staff who could read those languages and then pass the questions in. So it is a big bunch of work, but it does pay off. You do get those questions involved. Suggestions in particular for incorporating remote participation into the in situ. I think that what we had to do was, first of all, we had to script somewhat. We had to make sure that we were going around the globe and get the folks who are in those nodes to be able to speak online and the other nodes to hear them. But we also had to make sure that they had enough time to do their speaking, and then to engage with the folks online. I think our time is up. But contact me on Twitter here, and I'm happy to tell you more about how we did that. Time is up for this session, so I thank you all for joining me here, and good luck with the next one.
Yes.
I see there's a lot of great tweets going out on the Geneva Engage hashtag. Making sure I didn't miss any questions there. I like this idea of an e-participation task force. That would be very cool. Hello, Arsene. I hope I said that correctly. Great.
Hello, can you hear us, Todd?
Yes, I can. I can see you too. The wonders of RP. I love this. This is great. I wish I could do all my remote participation and or do all of my presentations RP. This would be nice. I see about 20 folks or so online so far, so thank you for coming over and joining my little corner of this. We'll get started shortly. Get situated there in the room.
Hi, Todd. Yes, we can start this one.
Okay, thank you. Well, I see, as I said, I see about 20 participants in the room or online here. I'm not sure how many are there sitting, but thank you for joining me. Again, as I said earlier, I'm Todd Talbert, and I serve as the Chief Administrative Officer of the Internet Society, or ISOC for short. For just a few minutes, I want to share with you the work that ISOC is doing in growing our remote participation in events, in collaborations, and discussions on the Internet for the Internet. So for those of you who aren't familiar with ISOC, we are a global organization primarily based in Geneva, Switzerland and Reston, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. The Internet Society is committed to an open internet everywhere for everyone. We work at the intersection of public policy, technical standards, and access around the globe. As you can see from the map here, we cover a large part of the world between our 113 chapters and our 80,000 plus individual members and supporters. In addition, we have 143 organizational members, which take the form of companies and organizations from all over the world. We support this community with 90 great staffers who are based in 20 countries around the globe and provide regional and local work through 6 bureaus that are situated overseas. So with such a diverse staff and community and mission, our intention in remote participation is to increasingly expand the conversations, the input, and the collaboration past the boundaries of just physical face-to-face meetings. There's no doubt that face-to-face meetings are important, but the reality of multi-stakeholderism is that the ecosystem can flourish further as we broaden the participation by as many voices as possible. The use of airplanes and conference rooms is not the only way to get this done. So through our Internet First initiatives, we look to tackle these issues that you see here. We first want to engage those who, for whatever reason, cannot join a physical meeting. We want to extend the collaboration past time zones and geography and utilize this great global technology that is the Internet in a way that allows conversations from anywhere and anyone who wants to engage. So to that end, we started with extending our conversations and collaborations in our own staff, bringing them together face-to-face online to hear each other's voices, to share and nurture ideas, and to attempt to bring this very geographically dispersed team a bit closer and more efficient on a day-to-day basis. We then moved on to our community and stakeholders. Sorry, there was a really cool graphic that goes there. But we started with our community and stakeholders in the same way through what we call community forums, which there's one starting in about 2 minutes here. In these gatherings, we pick topics such as WSIS or collaborative security or access and development and bring in the subject matter experts of our staff and community to educate, discuss, and work together to determine the way forward that best benefits the internet. These have turned into fantastic venues for our community to interact and speak. And while we do a large one every 3 months, this type of interaction doesn't stop there. Our teams and chapters have taken on the model and have more frequent meetings among themselves and bring that expertise and knowledge back to the wider community pretty often. So after we succeeded in those two veins, our next step was to attempt to bring the entire community of the Internet Society together for a single event. This was a single gathering to embrace the collaboration and to tie together the Internet community in a way that we had never done at the Internet Society. Intercommunity 2015 was a large initiative culminated in our first hybrid event that included 15 nodes in cities around the world, over 5.5 hours of content and discussion. We had 142 countries represented and over 1,900 people in those nodes or online individually participating and engaging. We utilized the internet for a meeting about the internet, I think is probably the key topic there. We learned a lot about how to use the technology, how to engage people in a way and on a level that made that interaction valuable for their time. Many people joined together in conference rooms in places like Thailand and Amsterdam and Nairobi and New Zealand, while twice that many people joined from their personal computers in their offices or from their homes. They all came to interact, discuss, share, and learn from and with one another. So from those three areas, I think we have some key learnings that I'll leave you with and kind of launch into our discussion and questions here. But for me to answer the question of how we at the Internet Society would like to do remote participation well and better, I think we can take a look at these 4 items as a starting point, and then hopefully you can use these and apply them to your own audiences. The first one is one size does not fit all. Meaning that, at least for us at ISOC, we weren't able to come up with one technology solution that would work for every person or every aspect of the remote participation. In our case, we had to create 2 solutions, one for nodes and one for individuals, and then bring the 2 together in the back end. We made sure to design remote participation into our agenda. While our primary speakers were in nodes, we knew we needed to engage those people who were not in the same or in any node. We didn't want to make them fight to get a word in or feel that they are not an equal member of the conversation. Remember, those who want to collaborate need to have the ability to do so no matter where they're sitting. Technology solutions abound. They're everywhere. They're available and affordable, but don't overwhelm your participants. A plethora of screens and functions and features and technology solutions can get people confused and more focused on how to participate rather than the actual engagement they came to do. And then lastly, over-communicate to your participants before, during, and after. Yes, there's such a thing as too much information. We've all been there. But we attempted to err on the side of caution in providing timely and rich information before the events. We tried to reinforce messages of the topics, the agenda, the use of the technology, and the intent of why we were bringing people together. And doing all that ahead of time really paid dividends for us in the end because the participants became more engaged in the conversation and gave us the collaboration that both we and they were looking for in the event that we were doing. So with that backdrop, I'd love to answer any questions or discuss further what we did or how we can all work together to increase remote participation on the important topic of internet governance and other topics that your particular community needs to engage in. So I'll open it up for questions if there are any. I'm looking in the chat to make sure I don't miss any here. I would love to hear from those in the room as well as those online. Thank you, Derek. So while we're waiting for a question, just to talk a little bit more about our inter-community event, we will be doing another one in 2016. Right now it's scheduled for sometime in September, and I don't have that date in front of me. But I would encourage for you to join and see how this is done. One of the great things that we did there, trying to bring the in situ as well as the remote participation together, was we sent out our executives and our great subject matter experts. We sent them out into the nodes, and we had them do their presentations, the things that they would be sharing with everyone from those nodes. So not only could they engage with people that would be face-to-face in those rooms, but they were also engaging remotely. And then that allowed us also to take people in those nodes and give them a voice online into the event, as well as take questions from people both for remote participation and other nodes around the globe. It became this very great thing for us because we could engage more people at the same time. Let's see if there's any questions here. I love it that Ritu has come from the west coast of the USA to Geneva to hear Todd speaking on the east coast. Yeah, it is quite interesting what we can do. We can definitely extend the conversation of anything that we want to extend the conversation to. And you know, for us, the being able to extend multi-stakeholderism and getting more people involved without having to buy a bunch of airplane tickets and spend time away from your family and your work and all that has been hugely important for our organization. Derek says he has a question. I don't know if Derek's going to be doing that. Go ahead.
Yes, Todd. Hi, this is Derek Cogburn from Washington, D.C., and I'm really happy to participate as well. I really enjoyed your presentation. And I guess I just have one question for you, and I apologize, I missed the beginning of it, and I apologize to everyone if my voice is a little hoarse. I think I'm speaking after you at some point, but I'm a little hoarse and been buried under snow here in DC for some time, but I'm going to do my best. So Todd, this is an area that's been very important for me for a long time, and I was really happy and have participated in some of the ISOC virtual meetings. After some of the IGF meetings, we've had some good blended meetings and so forth. And I just wonder, this is something I'm going to talk a lot about, but I just wonder to what degree you have focused on accessibility issues for your remote participation. So I know you've worked hard to make sure people that are using mobile devices and low bandwidth and so forth, but accessibility for persons with disabilities, has that been a consideration as you've tried to roll out this remote participation?
So it is very much a concern for us, and it is something that everything we go to do, we take into account or try to take into account accessibility. I will admit and hold my hand up and say we have not been the best at it. We need to do more about this. We also need to say that we also need some of the tools to take that on as well. So one of the tools that we used for intercommunity and that we use on a day-to-day basis here at the Internet Society is by a company called Zoom here in the United States. And they are one of the few organizations so far, and I think everybody's working on this, but they're one of the few organizations that is stepping into that lightly and is attempting to do things that can help with that. The big thing, or at least in my mind, the big thing is how do we get more easily machine-based closed captioning? How do we do that better? Because the best ones, the ones that are the most clear and most articulate, are somebody sitting behind a machine doing that. It's the same thing in translations to other languages, which is very important to us as well. The technology isn't quite there yet to keep that as good as we would like to have it. That's not to say that we shouldn't try it. and we are trying different things in different places. But it's an ongoing battle, and definitely something that is important to us. I wish that accessibility was as easy as applications that work on mobile phones and for low bandwidth, because we seem to have tapped that pretty quickly. So thanks for that question. I want to move on to Pete's question here. 4 points. Please say more about don't overwhelm. So this was something that we worked really hard to do, and I bring this up because I know Arvin, who's one of the people who put this particular event together, was telling me that the selection of Adobe Connect is a great one for them because of so many folks who can't install more software on their machine. We had the same methodology and the same thought as we did Intercommunity. We didn't want to have people install more software to be able to connect and be a part of this. So we purposely looked for an application and a team to help us do this in HTML5. But when we did that, we didn't want a lot of boxes and things on the screen, or we wanted the ability that while those things were going on to spread the boxes out. So we had a text chat, very much like what you see here if you're online. We had a text chat, we had the place for all the attendees, we had the presentation up, and of course we had the audio and video. But we also had the capability to move all that out of the way and just pay attention to the audio and video if you wanted to. But not to clutter these things. I think as you know, if you go to a raw version of Adobe Connect, there always seems to be a whole lot of windows. I think Arvin and team from Diplo have done a great job in simplifying this interface. But for those of you online, 22 of us here, really you're looking at, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on in the chat over here in the bottom left, and attendees and keeping up with all of it. So what we found was people wanted it to be simplified. Don't make me learn a whole platform just to participate and to engage. And we took that to heart and really worked hard to do that. So we had probably, you know, some or very close to the same amount of windows as you see here. I have 4 up, and that's about what we had as well. Any other questions, comments?
Hi, Todd.
So while I'm waiting to see how many more minutes.
Hi, Todd.
Oh, hello.
This is Ritu. Ritu Sharma with SDG Nexus and Social Media for
Hi,
Nonprofits.
Ritu.
I was curious about participation in your digital forums. We see much smaller participation compared to our live events. We serve about, at our programs, we serve about 10,000 people a year. But I don't see as robust of a participation in digital forums. What can you do, or what can players in the Internet Governance Forum do to actually increase the reach and involve people? Technology is one part of it, but attendance, what do you do internally to increase your own awareness of your programs? Thank you.
Great, thank you for the question. So there's a lot of data and there's a lot of studies on do remote participation cannibalize face-to-face meetings? Will people not go to face-to-face meetings because this remote participation is available? And then once you get them in, if you get them into the remote participation, are they truly engaging in a way that they can? For us, there's a couple of things that are really the driving pieces for this. First of all, 80,000 members across the globe. There's just no way for us to pull 80,000 people together. Not that we ever could, but to bring 5,000 of those people around the globe, and the cost and the expense to get people where they need to go, they drove us to say, we want you to be more inclusive. We want you to bring this to us without us having to go places. Or if we have to go somewhere, make that a local somewhere. Make it a local place that we can go, we can meet with a smaller group of people, but then be tied into others. We see with our chapters, we see a lot of that going on now, to where, for example, in North America, we have 3 or 4 very active chapters, and we'll see them sometimes come together using Zoom or WebEx or some tool to have 10, 50, 20 people in a room and in each room, and then come together. And now they've got a pretty large event of 100 people or so talking and discussing. One of the things that we found is setting time for these things and then also duplicating them. So in the case of Intercommunity 2015, when we did that, we actually did the entire presentation twice. We were based out of Auckland, New Zealand, so that's a great hard time zone. But we did one in the morning there, which handled the afternoon of the United States and South America, and a little bit of Africa. And then we did another in Auckland's afternoon, which then covered the morning time in the rest of Africa, Asia, and Europe. And it was a great way to, while we split the community a bit to do it, what it did for us is we gave people 2 chances to be involved in it. Hopefully one in their own time zone, but in some cases we had people come back for the second one to be involved as well. The content was the same, might have been different speakers, but the content was the same. So we spent a lot of time thinking about how do we put content out there, how do we engage them, and how do we bring this all together in such a way that people wanted it. And so far, knock on wood or touch wood, as they say, we've been able to do very well with that. Uh-oh, I hear the bell. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks very much, Todd. From what I heard of that was great. And I had to disappear before I heard the answer to my own question, which is very rude of me. Derek, I'm glad to see you online. Everyone else, as I said on the text, we're going to take a break here. Please do take a break. And we're back. We're physically back in this room, and we're also virtually back in the room you're in now, which is the main Adobe room. All right. Bye for now.